Welcome to Out of Bounds. In this video, we travel by trains from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, to Kunming in southwestern China. This is part of an overland series from Hong Kong to Singapore and beyond. I will use practical ground or water transit options where possible, and hopefully share a few informative and fun moments along the way. Please feel free to check out the channel page and subscribe to follow the journey. Historically, the route between Hanoi and Kunming was traversed by the old Yunnan-Vietnam Railway, built as a French colonial project between 1904 to 1910. After its completion, it became an important transit route that connected the Vietnamese port of Haiphong to the interiors in northern Vietnam and southwestern China. Because of this line, Yunnan in fact had better rail connections to Vietnam than to other Chinese provinces for decades in the early 20th century. Goods as well as people going to or from Yunnan often transited through Haiphong for ocean access during that time. Today, passenger service on the Vietnam section between Hanoi and Lao Cai is still very much active. It is quite easy to book tickets online directly at the official website dsvn.vn. Regular passenger service on the China section of the old Yunnan-Vietnam Railway terminated in the 2000s. Instead, passenger trains now run on the later constructed 1435mm standard gauge line from Hekou Bay to Kunming. There is no longer through trains from Hanoi to Kunming. The border crossings and transit between the Vietnam and China sections must be done separately from the train journeys. Let's see how it all works. I booked the Hanoi to Lao Cai train ticket on DSVN website in advance. I am taking the SP7 train, departing at 22:40 from Hanoi station, so there is plenty of time for dinner before starting the trip. From the old quarter of Hanoi, it is about 10 minutes by taxi to Hanoi station. I arrived at the station a little after 22 o'clock. Boarding was already open at that time. Let's get upstairs. The locomotive of this train was built by CKD Prague in the former Czechoslovakia. This 1200 horsepower unit was likely delivered into service in the late 1980s. This is an air-conditioned sleeper train with 4 beds in each compartment. Although these train cars are obviously not brand new units, I personally found the interior and facilities quite clean and functional for an overnight trip. The train departed on time at 22:40 from Hanoi station. The train runs right through the urban core at a crawling pace. Here, we almost rub shoulders with tourists and coffee shops at the famous train street, and we get photographed like celebrities on red carpet. Looks like some locals are also enjoying the shimmering lights on the Red River. About 20 minutes after departure, we stop at Jialam Station. This is where international passenger service to Nanning and Beijing would have departed from before the COVID-19 pandemic. Good morning, good morning. This is around 6 o'clock in the morning in northern Vietnam as we approach the border. To be honest, I did not sleep too well last night, and it mostly had to do with the rumbling and rocking of the train as it rolled down the meter gauge tracks. On the other hand, the rumble of the train would cover up your roommate's snoring if there's any, so at least the experience is independent of other passengers. The train did also make a few technical stops in addition to the scheduled stations, which honestly did not bother me too much. The train runs along the Red River for the final stretch, then arrived basically on time at 6:25 local time at Lao Cai Station. I was out of the station by 6:30.
Attention please. Train SP7 has just arrived at Lao Cai Station. Passengers getting off the train, please go to the rear of the train and exit the station.
Lao Cai Station is about 1 kilometer from the actual border. It's certainly possible to cover this distance on foot like I did, but if the weather is not good or if you're carrying more luggage, then taxi is of course also viable. Another reason I chose to walk is that the border offices don't actually open until 7 o'clock, so I would have needed to wait even if I got there earlier. If you have a separate paper Vietnam visa, the border officer will collect it at the exit counter here. After clearing Vietnamese border control, we cross the footbridge and the physical border between Vietnam and China. There's a 1-hour difference upon crossing this border. Under the bridge is Nanxi River, which merges into the Red River immediately to the west of the footbridge. On the other side, in the upstream direction, you can see the old Yunnan-Vietnam Railway Bridge, which also straddles the border. We enter the Hekou port of China after the bridge. Here, it's the standard Chinese entry procedures, with passport checks first, then X-ray for bags in the customs area. When I crossed, the non-Chinese line had a bit of a queue from the morning rush hour. I was now in a bit of a race against time since it was 8:24 and the departure from Hekou Bay was 8:50. Luckily, there was not much traffic on the road. The taxi to Hekou Bay Station only took about 10 minutes and I made the connection, no problem. I am taking the K9604 train from Hekou Bay all the way to its final stop at Kunming Station. Unlike its more futuristic high-speed colleagues, the K-series trains in China are conventional services. This one uses the very common 25G coach cars. After having just spent some time on meter gauge train, it's quite noticeable how much bigger this standard gauge train is. Although hard seat is in the name of the coach, most Chinese hard seat class trains nowadays actually have padded and cushioned seats, though you cannot tilt and lean the seats backwards. facilities are quite decent. The air conditioning is almost too strong for my liking. There is no dining car on this train, but passengers can buy cup noodles, snacks, and water from onboard staff in car 5. Instead of snaking along the river valley, this new railway takes a more direct route and punches through the mountainous terrain with non-stop tunnels. There was no cellular signal in these tunnels near the border. This wouldn't really have been an issue, but given how everyone is reliant on mobile payments in China, some passengers needed to time their snack purchases to when the train was outside the tunnels. We finally started to see some larger flat lands around 1.5 hours after departure. At 11:34, the train stopped at Jianshui Station. At 12:12, the train stopped at Qujiang Station in light rain. At 12:20, we crossed the Qujiang River. At 12:43, we met up with an out-of-service K80 train set at Tonghai Station. In regular service, this train runs 2,600 kilometers between Kunming and Shanghai. We briefly stopped at a cargo rail yard before coming into Yuxi Station at 13:20, 2 minutes ahead of schedule. Many passengers boarded here. There are still many tunnels between here and Kunming, but now there is also uninterrupted mobile data signal inside. At 14:41, we arrive at the final stop, Kunming Station, slightly ahead of the posted timetable. After getting out of the station, I made a quick stop at the ticketing counter here to prepare for the next leg of the journey. It is also easy to access other destinations throughout the city via the subway. If you enjoyed the video and would like to follow along the journey, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.